It's Real Fit Radio with B
and J.LOU.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. And if you're a returning listener, welcome back.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I get you every time.
No, we are trying something new today. We normally record really, really late at night. And so we're recording in the morning. And it feels different as opposed to recording at night. But
it should feel better for you because this is when you be thinking the most. So your thoughts might be more concise as opposed to winding down.
I don't know. It's interesting, but whatever the case, I'm feeling good. I'm up. I'm grateful to see another day and to execute and just see what winning the day looks like for me. How about you?
The same. It is different starting the podcast early in the morning, but for me personally, I don't have a preference, but you do tend to be a bit more refreshed. Some people need to get their bearings together and it takes them a couple hours. Me, it's like once I get out the bed, I'm up. For as everything else overall, I'm good, blessed, highly favored. I never try to do much complaining. So what more could you ask for? Being mentally stable to be able to make sound decisions and all your limbs are working. So if that's good, everything else can work out today.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the podcast. And we're talking about religion, tradition, and relationship. And to further elaborate on the topic, I find it really interesting when I meet different people and just based on the flow of conversation or energy, connecting, and it's just good people in the world that we are fortunate enough to connect with. And somewhere down the line, you may learn whether you inquire about it, they mention it randomly, or just through time. You see something and you just kind of connect them to that. You get to see people that have developed religion, which is a practice, or they have a tradition, something they've just been doing because my grandmother did it, my mother did it, I did it. And then there are people that have relationship. And I'm saying that in relation to spiritual connection. I say I am a child of God, and I just find it really interesting how many things or people you connect with that have a different belief system, and it could become a debate, or there may be an issue based on practice. You do this, you believe in going to church on Sunday, or you don't go to church on Sunday, or we pray this many times a day. And so I've always been not even confused. I just lacked an understanding for why it had to be so complicated. Whatever it is, you should respect each other's personal beliefs as long as it's not hurting anybody. And also you should be open to understanding at some point why a person does what they do, especially if it's working for them at whatever stage in their life. I seek to understand, and I put a lot of time into that. For some people, it's like, I don't need to know. It doesn't matter. This is what I do. This is what's worked for me all my life, and you cannot tell me anything else. And I think when you come in with that mindset, it just creates all kind of discord and create unnecessary frustrations within yourself because you're trying to figure out something that doesn't have anything to do with you. If it brings somebody else peace, if they operating in love. I know for me, my belief in God, I'm sure with other people, their understanding could be limited in that, but I value that they respect it. They're not meeting me with criticism or creating a debate where I'm frustrated and having to defend what brings me peace, what I rely heavily on, and what has just been a part of my life. So when I break it down, I find that more issues or conflict arise behind religion and tradition, not relationship. And that's why I wanted to kind of delve into this more, because religion, I feel like, can be forced upon. I find more debates happen because it's like, what are you? What's your religion? So now there's already division. I'm having to let you know what I belong to. So you Christian, Catholic, you're Buddhist, you're Muslim, and there may be some other things in there that I didn't mention, but it's just like now we've created you belong here. So there's some separation. Although someone else may feel like, I want you to identify where you belong so I know if we together or we're separated. That already can create an issue. And then the next thing is tradition. I don't do that. Or in our religion, we don't do that. We do this, or we go to church on this day, or we don't eat this. And so there's that separation again. And I feel like you're already creating or putting yourself in a position, or you're being put in a position to create this feeling where I believe a person can already be defensive. But with relationship, I think you just move in it. Relationship is where you have connection and understanding, and it's just who you are. When you come and you say that you are husband and wife, I don't believe that's something that's questioned. You just married and it's a relationship, and you guys have a flow and a commitment to each other. But I wanted to stretch it some before I kind of pass it over to you, so you're not just kind of like, can you stretch that a bit for me? That's kind of broad. Religion, tradition, and relationship. But that topic in itself has always been something for me that I think about a lot, because you're constantly meeting people and seeing how they operate, and that always comes up. At some point, it's identified, it's asked of you, what do you practice, or something like that. So yeah, that's what we're talking about this morning.
Okay. It's a bit different. I like it.
I figured tackle it because you would not know me and not know my relationship with God. And I don't force that down anybody's throat, but it's just a part of my life. It's a part of everything I do. So yeah.
I've always been told by different people from all walks of life, it's this ongoing cliche joke that says topics to stay away from when talking to a group of people, and that is religion, money, and politics, because it causes chaos. And I think that's because those three topics really have similarities, specifically government and religion. When you made that reference about religion and how your belief in your religion and my belief in my religion could cause a war or chaos, that's the same thing with governments, if you ask me. If you think about all the different countries in this world, they all have their way of doing things and portraying something. But when you peel back all the layers of everything that's being said by each government, they're kind of saying the same thing. They all want the same thing, which is their country to thrive. So when you think of religion, or at least when I think of religion, the practices for each one is pretty much the same. Peace, treat everyone kind, etc., etc. You know, you can go across the board with Christianity, Muslims, Buddhism, Hinduism, they're all preaching the same thing. It's just that it's worded different, in my opinion. I was just listening to something the other day, which you sent me, of saying if you don't repent to Jesus, you're going to hell, like basically in a nutshell. But I've always thought that, okay, they call him Buddha over there, but God goes in many places. He's not in one section. So when people was climbing the Tower of Babel, he made everybody language different because they were trying to reach the heavens with that. So let's stretch that even further and be like, what if he told them that my name is Buddha over there? Because like I said, when you peel back the layers of everything that's discussed in these religious practices, they are pretty much the same, and they all talk of peace and togetherness. So yeah, I'm with you. I never really understood where the complexity came from with those, but I guess it ties into the other points you made about tradition. Tradition has its pros and cons. I do believe it can be a good thing because it does give the up and coming generation something to follow, like a blueprint. But if you're so rigid in that blueprint, you can damage those who are coming behind you because things evolve. So being a traditionalist is not just a one-way street. Traditions can change. They can be altered. They can be added to. It doesn't mean that it's bad because you're doing something different. Let's just put the main one out there. Racism. You teaching kids to dislike and be prejudiced to other ethnicities. That's not a good tradition. So I'm not the one to really stay on a traditional path because I like to venture out, ask questions just like you did, or do. We're very inquisitive. Well, why do we do it this way? Like nobody really ever asks questions in tradition, like why do we do things a certain way? And people that usually ask questions are usually the ones because if you're like, what you asking for? This is how we always done it. Well, it's because I want to know. And then there's a possibility there may be a better way. For as relationship, I definitely feel like that's the most powerful one out of three, because with relationship, you're actually having an open line of communication there to build an understanding for what it is you're practicing. Even without me stepping foot in a church, pretty much since I moved to LA, my spirituality and my relationship with God has grown even throughout me not going to a physical temple, because I'm always having conversations with God, or I'm reading books that has many God-like references, or even with Devon Franklin, we know he's a God-fearing man. We read his books, or you send me different links to different pastors that's on YouTube, and they preach the word. So I'm always feeding myself, and I'm sure you are as well. So building a relationship is definitely more important to me than the tradition itself of going to church, because I was one of those kids that was told by his grandmother to go, but they never really tried to explain to me why I was going. So I was just going, and I was just like many other kids, you go to sleep. You go to sleep in church, and when it's done, it's done. But as I started to listen and pay attention, it was important to me to understand, if I'm going to put this type of time in going somewhere every Sunday, and most pastors Bible study too and do that, I need to understand who or what I'm trying to build a relationship with. So I started to seek understanding and seek counsel in my own way outside of that as well. And it has been nothing but phenomenal for me. And I didn't do it the traditional way either. So that's kind of my take on it, at least the top layer.
And not even picking between the three, but relationship just hits different.
Yeah,
having relationship, I find my strength in all of that. I just find such a heavy weight in religion and tradition, because it's almost like if you feel led to do it any other way, you're bracing yourself for ridicule because you're going against something that's already established.
It's kind of like entrepreneurship.
Exactly. Heavy is the crown. It's just a hard thing when you're trying to create or find a space where you have some peace and understanding, or you draw strength from, and you have those three things in front of you: religion, relationship, tradition, and not necessarily in that order. But religion states, I need to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it has to be. And some of those things I agree with, but I don't want to force that on anybody. That's how I feel like fallouts can happen. Religion states, in order for me to be saved, I need to do ABC. If that's based on the practice that I follow, that's a part of me building my relationship, but I'm not here to force it upon or to put hate in my heart or create discord between myself and someone else. The video we looked at the other day, and some would be upset with me about it. The person said, if you're Catholic and you believe in the Virgin Mary and not Jesus Christ, you going to hell. Here's my thing. I believe, for me, in my relationship, that God has always met me exactly where I'm at in my life. And I believe if you in your heart believe something so strongly, it's almost like a child. You could tell a child something and they believe it. They believe in superheroes and all that kind of stuff until life and time teaches them differently, you know? So imagine trying to tell a child that knows nothing different than they just believe, I could do it. That energy, you can't take it from them. They just, I could be anything I want to be. And you're like, no, you can't. Because when you get older, stuff can happen. And what if you're not smart enough? Or what if the opportunity doesn't present itself? So here you are trying to create all these things and put them in their head. And they still may look at you and say, I can do it no matter what. And you're like, no, because based on what I've seen, if you live long enough, here you are putting that in that child's head. I feel like it's kind of unfair.
It can be.
Yeah, I feel like with religion and tradition, people have to find their own way. I'm just really here to tell you based on what's happened in my life and to equip you as best I can through open dialogue. And if you ask me, I'm not here to shove this down your throat. That's another thing I find with religion and tradition. Sometimes stuff comes in so bold. A person is like forcing you better and you need to. And it's like a scare tactic. You live long enough, you'll make some decisions based on your level of experience, and this is what I want to be. How about you look at people's lives, and that as an example itself can encourage which way or which you want to implement in your relationship. I don't have to force something on you when you look at my life and you may see something where it's just like, wow, I really like her energy, or how does that work for her? How was she able to get to that level of peace? Or there's something that you have that I want. People say it's light, different things like that. When those opportunities present themselves, that's not a force or a shove. That's just me sharing through my relationship with God. For me, somebody asked me the other day, wow, just having this conversation with you has just been so inspirational, and just your energy and all that. How did you get this way? And I said, God. And it's like, really? Well, how did you come to know God? I said, through pain. And we were able to continue to have a discussion. But there was no force. It was no, I serve, and this is what you should do. And if you don't have a church home, you better get one. Because to be out of the will of God, and I mean, for some people, it may work that way. That may be exactly what God told them to do. But in my experience, I would encourage others out of those three to not be pushed away from having a relationship or finding peace and love and seeking to understand. Don't be turned away from that based on a bad experience with someone pushing religion or tradition. Your bad experience based on someone saying, I'm Christian, I'm Catholic, I'm Buddhist, I'm Muslim. And I'm naming all those because what happens with us, our minds are like computers. If you ask me what I am, already in my mind, I'm like, whatever I say, they're going to go in their database.
Whatever they already saw and experienced.
Right. They're going to go into their database and it's going to pull up a word. What is that? And that's just what our minds are set up to do. So if I say Christian, you're going to pull up all the data in your mind, what's associated with a Christian. If I say Muslim, it's like, I don't know that too much, but what have I seen associated with a Muslim? A picture, what they look like, what they do, what they're affiliated with. If I say Baptist, and so on and so forth. And those are just examples. When someone asks me that, for me, I've always answered, I believe in God. I'm spiritual. I answer in those ways because it's kind of broad. When you say I'm a child of God, there's no picture of that. It's almost like, well, what does that mean? Is that Christian? No, I'm a child of God. Well, what's your faith? I'm spiritual. Well, what does that mean? I have a relationship. And it's not confined to whether I make it to church on Sunday, Wednesday, whatever it is based on that religion. They're trying to figure it out in their head. And it's like, when I say that, there's no point of reference for it. It's just like a child of God relationship. What? And I feel like that's almost like an extended olive branch, or it creates an opening for them to experience something different if we're allowed that time, and to walk away with something new and an open mind, and hopefully encourage them to create their own relationship. Because once somebody asks that question, and whatever you say, you're being studied at that point. And it's not because they're even doing it intentionally. It's what we do as people. We're creating a reference in our mind. We collect data based on experience and we store it, right? So now when I say child of God, and I'm not saying that that's something many people do, but if you come across someone else that says that, or they say, I have a relationship with God, your experience, hopefully through, even with me, it's like, that was different. Or they may seek to have their own relationship, because every relationship is different. We can look at father-daughter, mother-daughter, child-parent, husband-wife, friends, all those relationships, friendships. Everybody's won't look the same, but they can thrive though. You may have a great relationship with your best friend, and my best friend, we have a great relationship. But things that go on in your relationship with your best friend, it may not look exactly the same. If we break it down to just the core, there's some values there where it's like, they can depend on me, always supported them, I love them, even through disagreements. That's my friend, like the core of it. And I wish that people could kind of see God that way. Like, the core of it is love. At the end of the day, we're not here to fight each other. There shouldn't be any confusion. We can lack understanding and we can seek to understand each other better. But if we just look at it and be like, you know what? There's no love in this, what we're doing. There's no peace in this. There's just judgment. And I'm not a judge. I may not agree with what you're doing, especially if it's something where it's like, I believe people have a meter or a scale. Some stuff is just wrong. And you immediately feel it. And I don't have to fight with you about that. I can have an understanding. I have my thoughts on it. And I'm not talking about no crazy stuff. Murder is wrong. Because sometimes people are like, but this feels right. No. But even in that, there are some people that have some other things going on in their minds. And that's a whole, I can't even touch on that. But just for the basis of the three things I mentioned, I hope within those three things that people are able to find some way to create relationship that brings them love and peace and the openness to understanding and not automatic disregard for somebody else.
I found
because of their belief.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do understand that being a child of God, one of our biggest jobs here is to tell other people about God, about Jesus, how great he is. And I found the best way for me to do that is exemplifying exactly what he wants us to be like. Going the route of being forceful or all the stuff you were saying is like to be out of the will of God, especially when you're dealing with somebody who's been in the world a minute, who's been bruised and battered by maybe going to church in some hip hop clothes or a club attire dress because they really didn't know what church dress looked like
traditionally.
Yeah, exactly.
So they were rejected.
Going in that and feeling like that, and that can happen anywhere. It's not just with Baptist, Christianity, Catholic. You probably can go over there in India somewhere and get the same ordeal. And that experience, like you said, it's like a computer. You upload that data, and then when you talking to somebody and you say Jesus, and all that relates back to the experience they had if they went to a Baptist church or something. So going back, I do find the best way is just being the light myself. And people, like you said, are automatically going to want to know, how is this dude so happy in the DMV? Like, or wherever you are, where somebody should have an attitude. I think I told you this before when I was in college, and we were all in sin, man. We was drinking, some people was smoking, and we was kicking back, but somehow, I don't even know how we got on this conversation, but I was talking to this guy, and he was like, yeah, I don't even believe in God and all that stuff, bro. And I didn't say, well, why you don't? None of that. I just heard all of his reasons behind it, and it had a lot to do with what I just said before. Like, it was frowned upon on how he did things, I guess, when he did try to establish a relationship. And I just told him, I said, man, it's not even what you think it is. Like, even here and now, like, I have a relationship with God right now, but yet I'm here. But that does not mean that I don't have a relationship. It doesn't mean that he's frowning upon me right now. It's just more or less each day you're trying to get better, grow, be happy, and share your experiences with other people. And, you do that to the best of your ability. And I mean, I can't remember everything that I said to him, but by the time we were done with that conversation, he was like, man, maybe I was looking at this thing the wrong way. I mean, you make me want to go and try this again. I was like, yeah, man, I'm not here to force you on that. I'm just telling you my personal beliefs, my experiences, and it's been wonderful. And I'm not being frowned upon because what I'm doing now. Now, is it right? No, it's not. I understand that, but I do believe growth will come as long as I continue to be inquisitive and strive to be better. He's like, man, that makes sense. And that was in my early 20s. So yeah, I love that you said God will meet people where they're at, because that was, lack of better words, what was happening right there. Like, it was like God was meeting that guy right where he was through me. The other thing that I wanted to say is the differences with religion. It's so parallel to racism, because racism is nothing more than I look different than you, and I don't understand why your culture is the way it is. And I don't like that because it's not like mine. But you're not even trying to understand it. And you don't even realize that when you peeling back all the layers, we all want the same thing. I don't care if you're Black, Asian, European, whatever. We all want the same thing, which is to provide for our families and create some unity. That's it. Same thing with religious practices. You all have the same goal. how you go about doing it is different. And like you said, if you sat down and really try to understand why somebody did something the way they did it, maybe it'll make more sense to you. And it doesn't mean that, oh, well, we'll start implementing that. No, it's not that. It's just that you have an understanding of why they do what they do, and it's not judgmental. And you can't really go into this area with a judgmental attitude. That's even in trying to, I don't want to use convert, but get somebody to understand and join your religious practice or whatnot. Going in there with a judgmental mindset is not going to help someone change somebody's viewpoint of what it is that you believe in. Relationship just brings all the other stuff clarity to me. Without relationship, religion and tradition is almost like you gonna be going through the motions.
And that's exactly why I said when you have relationship, it's just different. I've met people when they can't get to church or get a word from the pastor or from somebody else, they are lost. I've met people where if not only they can't get to the church, it's like I've never prayed on my own. I've only known to bow my head and pray in the confines of a building. That's the church. So all those things, when I look at it, it's so limited. And it's just like God is not limited to a building or to one person. He can use anybody to speak to your heart, to help you, love on you, assist you to grow relationship with him if you open. This is just through my experience. I didn't have relationship or grow relationship with God through church or through somebody telling me in order for you to even get to know him, you have to come to know him through going to church. And then there's an altar call. And when the altar call happens, you go up to the altar. That's traditionally the way it would look. But for me, it's like, no, I came to know God in a dark time for me. When I felt like I had no hope or nothing else, what else could really happen? That was a low point for me. And there's still points in a person's life. I think sometimes, and I've learned this through conversation, well, if you got God, your life should be perfect. No, actually it shouldn't be. It just means I have the strength and I have assistance, almost like someone that comes up in a single parent household, a 2-parent household, and someone that has no support at all. My support, my source is different. I have a source. I have some assistance. And this is what I choose to rely heavily on and lean on for everything. So it's not about how is that so? Because if I can't get to my pastor, I can't get to communion, it's just, that's not the way it looks on paper. It's like, well, how can you confine something to one thing when you can't even see it? And I think on these things, and that's why I really want to talk about this, because I encourage anybody, be open and have relationship. Take some time out and sit for a minute and figure out what relationship looks like for you. Whether it is putting yourself in a situation or setting it up where you intentionally are making time and saying, I want to create relationship. I don't know God and I want to know God, or I'm going to go wherever religion you are. Just make sure you have relationship outside of tradition and that religion. That if you couldn't get to the pastor or whoever the head is in that religion, you in your car and you need some help. You were in a dark place. Like you said, sometimes you someplace you know you don't need to be. Mm-hmm. What's your relationship like? Can you sit right there and begin dialogue in your head like, man, God, if you could just get me out of this. The pastor's not going to always be where you at. The situation may not be set up the way it looks for everyone else. Like you alluded to earlier when you said you were having conversation and the guy based on his hip hop clothes, that one for me is hilarious. I've seen that time and time again where people are turned away because
you coming in church with some jeans, especially in the South, man. I mean, it's a little different now. Obviously, it's 2020, but when we was going, yeah.
Well, it's funny to me because I see pastors now. It's like you said, things evolve. In jeans, skinny jeans, wear the suit no more. Tennis shoes, or they wear the suit and the suit is short. It's like the style right now, the short one where you can see the ankle and it's fitted. And bottom line for me, if I was ever in a church, whether it's jeans or whatever, I'm not really there to assess your attire.
Exactly.
Unless you butt naked, that's just going to be kind of off for me. But God might have had them run in there like that. You have to know that it's going to be off-putting because you in there naked. You know, so those types of extremes where it's like, what you focused on me being naked for, you should be focused on getting the word. That to me is like, come on. If I come in here waving a gun, I'm going to get some attention. We're looking at the gun. And I'm still going to call on God because now it's like, what's up? It's fear or what's the situation? I'm just being extreme when I say those things, but I'm talking about me looking at her skirt, his jeans. I'm not the fashion police. I'm not there to assess what you got on. The fact that you made your way in here, I don't even know what your situation is. I think the craziest stuff. What if you had to pretend? Let's just make up something. What if a person was prostituting? And I'm not frowning on prostitutes. Everybody got something. But what if I was prostituting and randomly it was just like, I don't want to do this no more. I saw a church and it said, I'm just going in there. That's the only thing I can link to God. I've heard people tell me church equals getting to know God. So let me just go there because this ain't working for me. I'm so beat up by life. I'm just tired. So I see a church. And I go in there and I don't receive love. When I go in there, I feel immediately judgment. People are looking at me, wanting to know, why was she coming here with that? Oh, but in my heart, my spirit is coming for help. But I feel all that energy of rejection because of what I have on. That's horrible. So we are works in progress. We fighting daily to be better than what we were yesterday. Don't be so quick, especially in those situations. I find myself all the time just out in the world, not church, but I see something be like, what is going on there? And it's like, you really don't know what's going on there. You don't. You just have to be open without something where there's a risk of being harmed or something dangerous. You really don't know anybody's situation. We can't see the heart or the intention. Now, I have felt some type of way sometimes with people dressed great and some where you could just feel that they're so humble and they're not coming in clothed like we were in the store the other day with the suit and, smelling good, but just bad attitude. Yeah.
He didn't even have to open his mouth. And I was like, I ain't really feeling this dude.
Right. And that was so funny. We were in the store the other day and we didn't even say anything to each other. We were in line together and there was a guy in front of us, dressed nice. He was moving around, but in my mind, I was like, wow, what is really going on here? Right. I never said anything to Lou. Nothing. I didn't even know he was thinking the same thing, but it was funny when we got up to the cashier, she didn't say hello or anything. She just started bringing us up. But we could tell something had transpired with them. It wasn't loud, but she asked him something and he told her, I normally don't come to this store or something. And so it was kind of like he left and she was there. So when we stepped up next, she just immediately began to ring our stuff up. And so she stopped kind of in the middle of it and looked and said, wasn't he just, I think, what did she say? He was just all that, or she said something.
Yeah, she felt the same way we did, and she was like, well, and if you didn't shop at this store all the time, how'd you rank up all these damn points?
Right. So she was just, whatever it was, it rubbed her the wrong way. And she was just like, did you see him? Did you feel that? And it was so funny because I was like, wow, she felt something. And then Lou felt something. So sometimes everybody's on the same page. My grandma say, you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. It's like, nah, something is off right here. And I trust my gut. My gut is God for me. So it's like, my intuition. Nah, like you say, my spidey senses are going off. Something's up here. But other than that, I wouldn't tell anybody to go against your gut. But just think about that. When you connecting with people and they're experiencing you, and when it comes down to the religion and tradition, be open to sharing your relationship, and just hopefully in your mind now you have an understanding, or just open to when you say things or someone asks you to identify where you're from or something like that, you're able to have a different outlook on that. And also it creates an opportunity for you to share in a different way,
Exactly.
And even if you're not sharing, hopefully through our dialogue today, you're open to seeing different things there, because relationship is not religion. Relationship is not tradition. It's relationship, and it's open to everybody. It's not based on you're this and I'm that. It's not based on it's done this way. It's based on meeting you right where you at and going from there.
It's kind of like marriage, if you ask me. In order for you to have a relationship with God, you have to talk with him. And he's going to talk back, and it grows stronger. Same thing with marriage. You can be married to somebody, but the relationship comes from communication.
Mm-hmm.
if you don't communicate with your wife or your husband, it could be just like tradition and religion. You just going through the motions. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be married, but the relationship ain't there. You ain't communicating. So in order for you to grow that relationship, you have to continue to have an open dialogue with God.
Yeah, we could go on, but you know what our goal is overall? It's definitely something that you should explore. If you want to keep this conversation going, you have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggest a topic you'd like for us to talk about, email us at realfieldradio@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we hope this inspired, impacted, or empowered someone. Until next time.